Hello, and welcome to the Outdoorsy Diva podcast. I'm your host, Lauren, the Outdoorsy Diva. Thanks for joining. Hello, adventurers. Welcome to episode 17. And today we're going to talk about a really fun travel topic I'm so excited to bring to you. We're going to talk about fandom travel. I'm going to share with you what exactly fandom travel is, what that means, why all the cool kids are doing it. I'm going to share with you some firsthand examples of what fandom travel is, examples that I've personally done myself, and some that I just know a little bit about. And basically, this episode is just going to inspire you and give you a new way to thinking about your travel plans. So let's get into it. So being part of a fandom really just means that you have a common love or a like of something. It can be a person, a sports team, a fictional series on TV or a movie. Basically, it's just a community or a subculture or a tribe who all share love of one thing. So I'm a part of the Harry Potter fandom. I'm a part of the Disney fandom, Game of Thrones, the Dallas Cowboys. Those are probably my biggest fandoms. I'm also part of the Marvel fandom as well. I'll separate that from Disney. Even though it's part of Disney, it's still kind of a niche within a niche, right? Because you can definitely be a fan of all things Marvel comics and not give two poops about Mickey Mouse. So I happen to love them both, so I'm a part of both fandoms. But basically, that's a fandom. So fandom travel just means that your travel is centered around something pertaining to that particular fandom. So a fun fact that not a lot of people know about me, my very first time that I planned a trip out of the country, well, I'll take that back. So my first trip out of the country was Mexico. It was my senior trip to Cancun. And honestly, I don't necessarily count that one. It's not like it was the most culturally enriching trip. I don't know. I guess it counts. But my first for real trip that I planned, I did all the planning myself to get out of the country, was to Toronto, Canada. And my reason for planning this trip, along with my best friend, was to attend a Harry Potter convention. She found out about this convention online. She surprised me for Christmas. She booked our registrations, and we planned this trip out of the country to go to Toronto for this conference, and it was amazing. But here's the thing. Yes, we went to go to the Harry Potter convention, but of course we also want to see all the other fun things that Toronto had to offer. And we accidentally planned this trip during Carabana weekend. So that was my first exposure to the Caribbean carnival culture. And what a fortuitous accident that was, because I've since gone back to Toronto intentionally to go to Carabana. So planning a fandom trip doesn't mean that every single activity you're going to do is going to be centered around your fandom, but it's definitely a good way to explore a new place and just have another reason to go there besides some of the things that the place already had to offer. It's going to make it all that much more special. Now, my very first trip to London, that was done with my Harry Potter girls. Shout out to the Harry Potter girls. Y'all know who you are. And we planned this trip to London intentionally, all centered around the opening of the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child play opening in London. The entire trip was centered around Harry Potter and the Cursed Child in London. We basically were like waiting to see if we got tickets, the dates we could get tickets for, and then whatever those dates were, boom, that's when the trip was going to be. I mean, we all kind of had some dates in mind, but we had to do what we had to do, and we ended up going in August on that trip to see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child play with the original cast at the West End in London. And it is one of the best, most amazing trips of my life. But obviously, if we're gonna go to London, I mean, that's like the Harry Potter mecca, right? So we had to go and see all things Harry Potter. No, I didn't do like the official, like a Harry Potter tour that you could do. For the most part, we're pretty resourceful and I knew how to find the things I wanted to see on my own, but that's definitely a route that you could take. But we did plan a visit to the Mina Lima store. Mina Lima are the amazing artists that do all of the artwork that for the books and any of the graphics that you see, the posters that you see, advertisements, the Harry Potter newspaper, the Daily Prophet that moves. They do all of that amazing graphic art design work, and they have a storefront in London that's really, really cool for a Harry Potter fan to check out. We also, found little landmarks and things from the movies, obviously. And then there's the big one that everyone does. You have to go to King's Cross, to the train station that Harry left from. You have to go to platform 9 3/4 and push the trolley through the wall. And they make your scarf fly up in the air as you push the trolley through the wall. Though I've heard that they removed the trolley now, and so it's kind of not as cool as it used to be. I don't know what's up with that. I have to get some verification. But yeah, I heard that the trolley is not there anymore. But thankfully, I have my trolley picture for all time. So I get to remember that memory of going to the actual King's Cross station and feeling just like Harry left on September 1st when he left for school. We also planned a trip to visit the Warner Brothers Studios, which is where all of the sets from the Harry Potter movies are. And they have, the Great Hall, they have Diagon Alley. They've since added the Forbidden Forest. They have the Burrow, they have the Common Room, and it's such a cool experience. So we couldn't go that far and not do something that cool. We had an entire day set aside just to do that one activity. And we also happened to plan it when they were doing something special at the Warner Brothers Studios. They were doing a morning sunrise champagne breakfast. So we got to get in earlier than everybody else. We had a nice little champagne brunch around the Hogwarts Castle model, which is massive and amazing. And they made it look like the sun was rising. And we got to sit at the table in the Great Hall with the breakfast set up, which is not something that's normally done. And it's set up just like it is with the movies, with eggs and toast and the cool cereal names from the movie. So for a true fan, that's really a nostalgic type of thing and something to really differentiate your travel experience. And it's not something that everyone else is going to be able to say they have done. So the best part about planning a fandom trip is that you're going to have an invested reason to visit a place that you may have otherwise not have taken such an interest in. I mean, for me, the extension of my trip in London, of course there were other things I wanted to see, but I also took the train and spent a couple of days in Wales, and that was because I really, really wanted to stay in a castle, and that's where I was able to find a castle to stay for the Lolo. That's another really good post on the blog, shameless plug, about how I stayed in a castle in Wales for free. But in any case, would I have visited Wales had I not planned this trip? Probably not. Honestly, it wasn't until I researched and then found that, Wales actually looks like a pretty cool place to visit, that I made the effort to go and visit there. And now it's one of my, favorite places that I've been, honestly, and I absolutely loved it. And I would go back to Wales in a heartbeat. The other fandom travel that I've done, there are a couple of places in Northern Ireland that are greatly related to the Game of Thrones. I know we got a lot of Game of Thrones fans out there. I am a diehard Game of Thrones fan. And so Northern Ireland is a great place for people to visit and get to experience some of those things. You can go and actually see Winterfell and some of the other places. You can go to the Dark Hedges, which is out of the scenes from the series series. And actually, Croatia is also another hotspot for some Game of Thrones fandom travel. And did you know? Right here in the United States, in Georgia, you can take a tour of some of the Marvel studio sets and see some of the places where they have filmed a lot of the Marvel superhero movies. You can also do the same a little bit north of Atlanta. You can go to the town where they filmed a lot of The Walking Dead, if The Walking Dead is your fandom. So that is honestly one of the coolest things, is that you get to explore some other parts around you that maybe you didn't even know existed. I know a lot of people flock to Oregon because they are Goonies fans and they want to see the Goonie house. I personally, when I get to Oregon, I really want to see the Twilight fandom areas that they have and some of the tours, and check out some of those places that are featured in the Twilight movies. Now, you can also have other fandoms like, you have the big Comic Cons, you have Dragon Con that takes place in Atlanta, you have Comic Cons in the major cities like San Francisco and New York, and then you have the much smaller cons. For instance, the very first time that I visited the beautiful state of New Hampshire was because I went to a Harry Potter convention called MystiCon. That's where they held it. Cutest little town. Had a great time in New Hampshire, and honestly, I probably would not have checked that state off the list anytime soon if it hadn't been for having a reason to go for the conference. So the next time you're trying to think of somewhere different to go and you're kind of racking your brain, think about the things that you love. What are your fandoms? Are you a sports fandom? Is it a trip to some kind of Hall of Fame place? Or, could you just plan a trip around, when your favorite sports team is playing, but plan to go out of town when it's an away game? And that way you can also plan other activities to do while you're visiting that city, that city is known for. Maybe that's how you can check off one of those elusive states that you really didn't have that much interest in going to, but you found another interest there that makes you want to go. So fandom travel is a really great way to just get more travel inspiration and to travel differently. You don't have to be like everyone else. So how can you find these different things? How can you find where the different fandom travel hotspots are? How do you know where to go? How do you know what these famous places are? I'm sure you already know the answer to that. Google. It's so easy these days with a quick Google search. The information is right there at your fingertips. I promise. If you type in whatever your fandom is and you say, where was this film, film locations for this movie, and it's going to give you some great ideas. There are even companies now that specialize in doing, fandom trips where they curate everything for you. And if you're somebody that doesn't like to plan, then that's definitely something that you can do. That's a route that you can go. But I highly encourage you to think about the next time you're going to plan a vacation, the next time you're going to plan a getaway. And instead of just, doing the same old all-inclusive resorts, I just feel like that gets old. Step out of your comfort zone. Do something different. Think about something that has some nostalgia and some meaning for you, whether it's something for you as a kid or something you've fallen in love with as an adult. And then look at that fandom and figure out how you can turn this into an epic fandom vacation for you. So, what do you think? Sound off. I want you to send me emails to podcast@outdoorsyddiva.com. Let me know, is fandom travel something that you already do? Tell me about some of the places that you've been. I would love to hear it, and we can definitely circle back and share it on a later episode. But I'd like to know from you, is fandom travel something that you had considered? Do you have some other recommendations that we didn't talk about today? Shout out to all my Harry Potter fans out there. I just had a trip this past weekend and I wore a Harry Potter shirt, and the flight attendant was like, "Hey, what house you're in. So there's no better way to bond with your fandom than traveling and wearing your fandom gear, because I promise you, your peeps are out there and they will see you and love you for it. And I may or may not have gotten an extra snack or two because of my Harry Potter ties to my flight attendant. So with that, I wish you nothing but adventure and love and light. Let's go out there and live our very best adventurous lives, because adventure is our lifestyle. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, make sure you subscribe to the Outdoorsy Diva podcast. Be sure to check out Misadventures of an Outdoorsy Diva blog on outdoorsydiva.com. You can also keep up with me and my adventures, so check out all of my social channels. Find Outdoorsy Diva on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest.